truly horrifying incident that's come to light in Uttar Pradesh's Noida, in an upscale society. A 7-month-old baby, this was an infant of a laborer, was mauled to death by a stray dog in a high-rise society. This happened on Monday evening. Now, the kind of information, the details that have emerged are gory, shocking to say the least. Because what we're hearing, according to nearby residents as well as the authorities, is that the baby's intestines were actually pulled out in this brutal dog attack. The child was rushed to a hospital, obviously because of the critical condition he was in, died this morning in the hospital. The incident happened in a housing society called Lotus Boulevard. If you live in Noida, you know where this is. It's situated in Sector 100. Angry residents of the society gathered together. They've demanded that the Noida authorities immediately take action in this matter. According to one of the residents of the society, there are many stray dogs living in the basement, which is a threat to them, and they're saying that they're also being fed inside the society. So some residents came out saying, ensure that stray dogs aren't allowed inside the society. There were many others who said that this was some sort of provocation that led to an attack by the stray dog.
बस यहाँ खड़े हैं, अभी तक कोई एक्शन लिया गया है? अभी तक कोई भी एक्शन नहीं लिया गया, कोई भी एक्शन नहीं लिया गया सिवाय बातों के। नोएडा अथॉरिटी को यहाँ पे होना चाहिए। नोएडा अथॉरिटी की बहुत बड़ी गलती है। नोएडा अथॉरिटी आए और इसका सलूशन दे। एओए भी कुछ नहीं कर सकते। लोग प्रदर्शन कर रहे हैं नोएडा अथॉरिटी के खिलाफ। बिल्कुल, कुत्ते उन्होंने छोड़ रखे, क्यों नहीं हटवाते? हमारी समस्या, आज बच्चा मर गया, कल हमारा बच्चा मरेगा। वो बच्चा हमारा बच्चा है। होली के दिन, त्योहार के दिन उसका बच्चा गया है। कितना बुरा हुआ है और हम लोग बहुत परेशान हैं। 6 साल से आए हुए, ये समस्या का अंत ही नहीं होता है। हर बार ये आते, खत्म करेंगे। एमएलए आते, वोट मांगते चले जाते, हमारी कोई सुनता ही नहीं। मैं 6 साल से यहाँ रह रही हूँ। रोज कोई ना कोई इशू चलता रहता है यहाँ पर डॉग्स वाला। एवरी सम डेज, आफ्टर सम डेज कुछ ना कुछ चलता रहता है डॉग इश्यूज।
All right, I want to introduce now Milind Sharma. She's joining us live from the society. Has been constantly speaking to some of the angry residents there. Also with me on this broadcast is Radhika Suryavanshi, campaigns manager of Peter India. Milind, I'd like to take us across to you first. Get us a sense of, how residents are reacting, because we understand that some of them are saying that the right way to go about this is not a ban on stray dogs. Others are saying that the situation is out of control in the society.
Well, let me just show you the current situation, Akshita. Since we've been reporting throughout the morning on this particular issue, things have changed and developments have taken place. So right behind me, you'll see that there is a Noida ACO, Noida Authority, Mr. Indu Prakash, who's also here. He's spoken to the residents, but I don't think the residents have actually agreed to what he has to say at the moment. I'm also going to try to speak to a few other residents here. Rohit ji, ये बताइए कि आप नोएडा की ACO यहाँ पे पहुंचे हैं, तो उन्होंने आपसे क्या कहा? बिकॉज आप लोगों की डिमांड है कि स्ट्रे डॉग्स को हटाया जाए। आर दे बीइंग रिमूव्ड राइट नाउ?
सी, देखिए, उन्होंने अभी 2 गाड़ियां तो भेजी है अंदर, और अभी हम बाहर हैं तो हमने ये विटनेस नहीं किया कि उन्होंने गाड़ी से डॉग्स उठाए कि नहीं उठाए, तो उन्होंने भेजी तो है। अभी उन्हीं के आश्वासन पे हम चल रहे हैं कि यस, वो एक्शन लेंगे। बट पॉइंट ये है कि वो बाद में जब डॉग्स को उठा के ले जाएंगे और फिर बाद में कहाँ छोड़ेंगे? क्या वो यहाँ छोड़ेंगे या कहीं और छोड़ेंगे, या फिर वो सिचुएशन फिर से क्रिएट हो जाएगी?
कि वो कह रहे हैं कि डॉग्स को अभी ले जाएंगे यहाँ से, लेकिन उनको स्टरलाइज करके वापस यहीं छोड़ देंगे।
क्योंकि मैं आपको ये बता रहा हूँ, जो कल 2 डॉग्स थे जो स्टरलाइज थे, उन्होंने ही अटैक किया है, तो क्या स्टरलाइज डॉग भी अटैक नहीं करेंगे? ये कौन बताएगा?
क्या है, आप प्रूफ के साथ कह सकते हैं कि वो डॉग स्टरलाइज?
हमारे यहाँ पे ये है कि जो अगर डॉग अंदर फीड होता है तो उसको हम यहाँ पे पहनाते हैं, तो वो एक प्रूफ आइडेंटिटी के लिए वो यहाँ पे फीड होता है और स्टरलाइज हो, उसके अलावा और कोई प्रूफ नहीं है।
So residents are still not convinced with what the Noida Authority ACEO has told them. He has said that the dogs will be taken out from the society. Right now also we have residents all across. They are still waiting for a final word from the ACEO, who's speaking to people, trying to convince them. At the moment they're not on the roads. They have been taken aside by the Noida police as well. And they are saying that despite the fact that those were the dogs, there were 3 dogs, Akshita, that attacked that innocent 7-month-old baby that was lying on the side of the towers where the mother of the child was working. There was no provocation at all. And that is the reason that they are trying to assess whether even the dogs are sterilized. Why would they be allowed to be fed inside the society is the demand at the moment. And the Noida authority has told them in front of us that they will once again be let inside the society. That still remains to be a conundrum that needs to be resolved over here.
Okay.
Until such time, Akshita, I see that the residents here are still not moving from this location and they have decided to continue with their protest.
You know, the anger from the residents is very, very much understandable because they're worried for their own safety, they're worried for their kids, and something like this happening. It's shocking and tragic. A 7-month-old baby who's lost his life because of this kind of an attack by 3 dogs, as Milind is telling us, inside that society. But is the answer then a ban on stray dogs? Questions will be asked of the authorities of why they didn't do enough, because very clearly, and this has been established time and again across the country, you look at the example of Kerala as well, the need of the hour is to ensure that there's proper registration, there's proper tracking, and importantly, proper sterilization that's followed of these dogs. I want to take in Radhika also, who's the campaigns manager at PETA India. Radhika, what do you make of this incident? You know, this is a debate that comes up very, very often in residential societies because in the last few months, we've also seen repeated such incidents of not just stray dog attacks, but pet dogs also targeting others.
First of all, I'd like to say that this incident is extremely sad and this is not normal. Dogs, even stray dogs, are usually very friendly and welcoming. People like to play with them, like to pet them. So this is definitely a tragic, sad incident. What needs to be done, what the need we are is sterilization. By effective sterilization, this is the only scientific method which makes sure that you know, the population is stable and that no fighting happens, no attacks happen. We request that the community, you know, the society people work with the municipality in a way that all the dogs in the area are sterilized. So that these attacks don't happen.
No, according to some of these residents, Radhika, these dogs were sterilized, they were neutered, and despite that, this kind of an incident happened. And you know, you can understand the anger of the residents because yes, there are questions being asked of the authorities, but these residents are worried for their children next.
That is understandable, but we have to also recognize that removing these animals from these areas is not an option. Because if you remove these animals from the area, other animals will come and take up the vacant space. That is why when I say that sterilization and a stable population is the only way to reduce the you know, the number of issues that are happening, to stop these attacks, this is the reason why that any animal that is removed the space will be taken up by another animal. So we also request that, you know, if people were talking about feeders and feeding that is happening in the society, the AWBI, Animal Welfare Board of India, has a circular which says that it has to happen with a mutually decided space, either inside or outside the building, which is discussed and decided by the society people. And it should not be near play parks or, you know, in places where people, you know, roam around a lot or, you know, in a specific corner of the society. So we request that these rules also be followed. I would also like to point out, you know, just like you said, that a lot of attacks have been happening. We have been taking cognizance of that. But please know that these attacks, the community dog attacks are much less than the companion animal attacks. Pet dogs, majorly pit bull attacks are happening around the country. We've noticed that a lot of Gurgaon, attacks in Gurgaon, Ghaziabad, Punjab have been happening. And we as PETA have been requesting a ban on the breed. We have requested
that's happening. That's happening in several districts. So there's been a lot of talk also, a lot of discussion about whether a ban is the answer, even in this particular case. When these residents come together, they're banding together and saying that, you know, ban stray dogs within the society. Is that practical in a country like India when you have so many dogs roaming across in the streets? And then do they get more aggressive if you don't feed them? And what happens on the streets of the country then, which will be filled with these dogs? I want to bring in Ritika Goyal also, who's an animal welfare activist. Ritika, I'm sure you'll join me in condemning what's happened in the society in Noida. A 7-month-old's life has been lost. Now, there are several people who are saying that maybe the animal was provoked, but we're talking about an infant here.
I understand, and my condolence to it. This is not easy, but I'd also like to bring to your notice that dogs, the community dogs, are a part of the urban wildlife. They're extremely important. Why? Because they eat away dead bodies of rats. They cut down the population of cats, rats, so on and so forth. They're extremely, extremely important. Now, I think, to be very honest, we really need to learn to live with animals and share our planet. I'll tell you how. There are so many community feeders who are being harassed. Now, if we really want to work together, I would really recommend the societies to work together with dog feeders, because dog feeders are the only one can help you. Right now, what's happening is every dog feeder is being harassed. They are harassed, they're disturbed. The community dogs that they work with, they also, are also disturbed because they're being chased, they've been killed, they've been poisoned.
Okay, Ritika, my apologies for interrupting, but I just want to cut across to reactions that are coming in, live reactions from the Noida authorities right now.
कानून या कोई प्रावधान दे सकती है कि स्ट्रे डॉग्स को सोसाइटी के अंदर ना आने दिया जाए किसी तरीके से?
देखिए, हर सोसाइटी के गेट बने हुए हैं। गेट पे उन्होंने ऑलरेडी जो है अपने वो रख रखा है गार्ड। अगर वो अंदर आ रहा है तो वो रोकेंगे नहीं, वो आएगी सोसाइटी, वहाँ अथॉरिटी तो नहीं रोकेगी। आपको अगर रोकने से कोई रोक रहा है, फिर अथॉरिटी और पुलिस दोनों हस्तक्षेप करेगी, अंदर नहीं जाने देगी।
तो जब डॉग कैचर्स की जो वैन आती है सर, जब डॉग कैचर्स की वैन आती है तो कहा जाता है कि कुछ एक्टिविस्ट हैं जो रोक लेते हैं उनको, कुत्तों को नहीं ले जाने देते, तो इस पर सर क्या एक्शन लिया जा सकता है?
देखिए, हाँ,
उसमें क्या एक्शन लिया जा
एक मिनट सुन लीजिए,
क्वेश्चन किए जाए जिससे हमें निस्तारण मिले। बातों से पेट नहीं भरेगा, अब बातों से पेट नहीं भरेगा, सब नकली बातें हैं सारी।
एक्शन लिया जाएगा?
हाँ,
नहीं होना सर। अभी यहाँ पे
चलिए, कहाँ है रेजिडेंस, कहाँ
Okay, so you can hear that there's quite a bit of questions being thrown at the Noida authorities there on the ground. If Milind Sharma is with us, I'll just take this across briefly to her again. Milind, what are the Noida authorities saying? Because many of the residents you've spoken to also put the onus on them, saying they did nothing to ensure successful sterilization drive.
कोई ठोस जवाब जो है सीईओ नोएडा अथॉरिटी जो एसीईओ हैं इंदु प्रकाश उनके पास से नहीं मिल पाया। आलोक दास के साथ मिलन शर्मा, आज तक।
Okay, Milind has just filed that report for us. She's telling us that there's been no concrete answer that's coming from the Noida authorities. Ritika, I'll come back to you. My apologies for cutting you short earlier. You were making a point about dog feeders. Look, as someone who is also a dog lover who cares for these stray dogs, Ritika, I understand where you're coming from. But today, you have to also understand why there's an overwhelming sentiment saying that, look, stray dogs shouldn't be allowed inside societies. This isn't the only incident. Look at the kind of incidents that have been reported in Kerala as well. What is the concrete solution to ensuring this kind of incidents, these kind of attacks on people don't happen? We're talking about, a 7-month-old baby whose intestines were pulled out.
Like I said, your best bets are the dog feeders, because the dog feeders know their way around with the dogs. They can work with the dogs and make sure that they're more friendly and approachable to humans, because understand, dogs are territorial. Because that's their nature, we can't manipulate that or change that or control that. So the best way is to work with your dog feeders, form a community that will work with the dogs, sterilize them, like my fellow activist just mentioned over there, vaccinate them, deworm them, and also work with them to be okay if a human approaches them. That is your best bet. Work with your dog feeders. They are your best bet.
But they can't. Are they around all the time, Ritika? We have to be practical in a society, and many of them in Noida are very, very big. They're very vast, and these kind of dogs have a lot of human interaction, right? How do you know when one's going to get aggressive and attack a baby like this?
So see, dogs are not really aggressive by nature. They are territorials, and with the cases of dogs being poisoned, strangled, chased off, this does create a sense of fear in the dogs, right? This is where your dog feeders come in, and this is where you need to work with the dog feeders and have an understanding. One thing what we can also do is identify places far away from the society, from gates, from play parks, where they can feed the dogs. So there's a lot that we can work together, but the society and the animal feeder community have to come together and work. together. This is the only best bet. But listen, one thing is for sure, we cannot eradicate the dogs. We need them. They're a part of our urban wildlife, for sure.
When residents today at Lotus Boulevard, where this incident happened, are saying that, you shouldn't allow stray dogs inside the society. Feed them outside. Is that a fair demand?
Well, to be honest, the dogs, how did the dogs even come into the society? Let me go back a little bit. Usually it's a bare land, right? Dogs start living over there. Then a constructor gets the land, construction happens over there. That's how the dogs land up being over there. It's not that they, once the apartments build, the dogs come in. Dogs have always been there, right? So I'm not really sure, but we can work this around. For sure we can work this around.
No, but what's also the messaging, for people right now who are watching this broadcast, who will be extremely, extremely concerned about their own children, about their infants, their toddlers when they go out to play in the evenings, about what happened in this particular case. Where more often than not, everyone says that unless a dog is provoked, they don't respond in this kind of a way. But then you have this kind of an incident of a 7-month-old being killed by 3 dogs. In such a circumstance, what is your message to residents who say, hey, we're scared for our children?
I completely understand, and it's a very difficult time for the family who's gone through this. It's not easy, and this is definitely very agitating, and I can totally understand there's a hostile situation among the animal welfare activists that are there, and also, the people who live over there. But I think, again, we need to work together on this. There's nothing to fear. There are so many kids who grew up with dogs and wild animals, right? It's, again, the way you condition the animals. So I really don't know. To be very fair, I'm not really sure what exactly happened. What is the history with the dogs and the society people over there, to be very honest. So I'm not really going to say much, but one thing is for sure, animals can be conditioned either in a positive way or a negative way.